How's everyone? This is Bill Bullock, and I'm coming to you live from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Texarkana, Texas, USA. It is the Sabbath. It is the Sabbath before Yom Teruah, the day of blowing, and the fall feasts that follow, the days of awe, Yom Kippur, the day of our covering, the Feast of Sukkot, of Tabernacles, the final day of lingering, of Shemini Atzeret. These fall events in the northern hemisphere, spring events in the southern hemisphere, are a powerful message to the world, to the nations, of the kingdom of heaven coming to earth. And that the kingdom of heaven is being offered to all who wish to come, all who want to receive. So, welcome to you. Let's have a good Sabbath together. Thank you for letting me share a little moment of your Sabbath day. The parshas that we talk about as we conclude this cycle we're almost to the conclusion of the cycle of the Torah that we do each year. The parshas we talk about are numbered 51 and 52 out of the total of 54. The names of these two parshas, for those who might not know, or those who need to be reminded, are Nitzavim and Vayalech. Nitzavim basically means standing ones. It refers to a position, a readiness, an alertness, and a willingness to move forward with a purpose and with a mission. So Nitzavim, you're standing. We're still standing, and we're standing for a purpose to get ready to move. And then the next parsha is called Vayalech. And Vayalech means, and he went, or he walked, and he ambulated, and he moved. And there's a process where there's a moment of standing as we get close to the end, when we finally realize who we are, we realize why we are here on the earth at such a time as this. We realize what kind of mission we're called to and what kind of glorious God we serve. We realize that we're a small part of a cog, a great wheel that brings about the will of the creator of the universe, but we are a part. And we have a role to play, and that role is essential. So though we seem like sometimes a small part in the great plan, we are an essential part of the great plan. So we start by standing in who we are, and then gradually he begins to release us to move, and we go and we walk and we go out and we ambulate, and we begin to encounter and engage the world according to our mission, according to the rules of engagement that we've been given in the Torah, according to the wisdom of the Father and the leading of his breath, his ruach. And according to the example set by the Messiah, we don't just stand and preach. We go and live and do. So the parshas that we're talking about will take us from Deuteronomy 29, verse 10, through chapter 31, verse 30. That's the last portion of chapter 29, all of chapter 30, and all of chapter 31. This is the grand crescendo moment of Torah. It's as if everything Moshe has done up to this point to fill our hearts, to awaken our spirits, to awaken our neshama within us, the deep eternal spirit that the Creator breathed into Adam and therefore is in all of us. All that he's been doing up to this point is bringing us to this moment. It's a moment of critical decision. It's a moment of transition between those who merely listen to the words and the stories and the meditations and the inspiration and the directives of the Torah, and those who will walk a Vayalech, who will go out and walk them out in real time, in real ways, in accordance with the purposes of the mission, and see results and see fruit, as opposed to merely feeling comfortable in our theology or our doctrine, but instead begin to see impact upon the world. Prepare for impact. Well, again, this is the El Gran Crescendo de la Torah. This is the grand crescendo of the Torah. We've come a long way to get here. Let's understand what we've got. This is the Big Bang week of Torah. This is the grand crescendo or climax of Torah's revelation. Off of this will build everything the prophets say, everything that David lived out and walked out and taught us through the Psalms, everything that Solomon wrote about in his books, in the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon, all the things that the minor and major prophets spoke, all the things that the gospel writers, as they're often called, those who recorded the events of Messiah's first appearance in the flesh upon the earth. All the apostolic letters of admonition that have come, and then all the download of revelation that Yohanan, John, as he's known in the Western world, received. All these flow out of this grand crescendo and the great calls that we're going to read about in Deuteronomy 29 through 31. So this Big Bang is here. And a Big Bang means a new world order is being created. A new release is taking place. A new star is arising. And that star is the star of Messiah working through his surrogates, his delegates, his people. So, this is the Big Bang. Believe it or not, Moshe's stunning stories and his beautiful and poignant sin and redemption narratives that he's been giving us, all the discourses containing mitzvot and mishpatim and hukim and devarim have come down to this moment. And this week's revelation of Deuteronomy 29 through 31 is the essence of it. The appointed time has finally arrived for the delivery of the ultimate message, the ultimate challenge that the Holy One has been keeping Moshe alive all these many years to give to us. It is about to happen. Moshe's, therefore, in closing remarks, his declaration of the purpose of it all. The reason he's been telling us all these stories and given all these stories to tell us by the Holy One is about to ring out across the Moabian plain, the plains of Moab. But it's not just going to stop with the end of the plain of Moab. The summary, this declaration of the purpose of it all, this crescendo of Torah is going to ring out, not just through the Moabian plain, but through all the mountains and the hills and the valleys of earth, through all the ages, through all the generations, and it will come to you, and it will come to me. And this is not just the moment of Moshe's great crescendo, it's the moment of our great choice and decision. The three basic themes of this week will be, and I'll try to summarize briefly for you. First one is a little harder to summarize, so I'm going to kind of read part of it. And this is the first theme. It's how the parshas of the week start. All of you stand today before the face of the gaze of the Holy One, your God. Do you understand? This is your moment. This is your appointed time to stand before the throne, the Bema, and begin to think about what's going to happen the next few days of the high holy days. You will appear before the throne of the King. You will appear before the Bema of the Judge, and you will appear before the world to present yourself to the world like a new creation designed to go into the world for another year and be his representatives. All of you stand today before the face or the gaze of the Holy One, your God, for a reason, that you may enter into brit, into covenant with the Holy One, your God. This is the reason for it all, that we, you, I, our children, our children's children, but us, beginning with us right today in this moment, that we may enter into covenant with the Holy One, our God. You say, but I think I've done that. Do it again. Enter it, return, rehearse your vows, renew your vows today. This is a renewing of vows, a renewing of covenant day. It is Hayom Hazeh, this day. So you have been brought to this place, standing before the face and the gaze of the Holy One, your God, that you may enter into brit. If you don't understand the need for us to be in brit with the Holy One, in covenant with the Holy One, and to understand what our responsibilities are, and what his promises are, and how these two mold together to fulfill a plan in the world, in the earth, in the creation, in the seasons and the times, if you don't understand that, then you'll just live a life hoping to do good, maybe, or hoping to have fun or have a good time, as opposed to realizing why you are really here and what we're really called to do. So that we may enter into Brit. That's the purpose of it all. That's the mission of it all. The Brit that God makes with us today, the Holy One our God makes with us today, that he may establish us today, you and me today, as a people for himself. He wants a people for himself. This is not so that he can make our lives wonderful, although that will be our most glorious times will be spent when we're being his people for him. But that he may establish us today as a people for himself, and that he may be God to us, just as he has spoken to our fathers, to Avram, to Yitzhak and Yaakov. Now that's a large first theme. The first theme is understand who you are, why you're here, what this is all about, what the plan is, and the fact that this is all part of the covenant with Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. It's not what the world in the West would think of as a new covenant, but it's called the new covenant from a standpoint of Brit Chadash. It is a refreshed, renewed, restored, now, today covenant for us. Okay, so that's the first theme. Getting an idea of who we are and why we're here. And the second theme is when he comes to the culmination, the climax, and he looks into our eyes across the generations, across the geography, across the seasons and the times, and he looks into your eyes, and he looks into my eyes, and these words ring out into our lives and into our DNA. Choose life. This is theme number 2, but it's the central theme of the entire section. It's the central theme of the entire Bible, and it's certainly the essential theme of Moshe and Torah. Choose life, and this life is Chaim. It's a plural. It's the highest possible level of life. Choose the highest possible level of life, that you and your seed both may truly live. Choose Chaim, that you and your seed, your children after you, your grandchildren after you, will have fertility in the land and the earth, and have an effect upon the land, and you will thoroughly enjoy and delight in and find purpose in what you do. Choose life. So the second theme is choose life. And the third theme is found in Parsha Vayalech toward the end. And it's found, first of all, in conversations with Yehoshua, between Moshe and Yehoshua. And then he carries this conversation beyond Yehoshua to his conversations with each of the tribal heads, the Levites, the 8 priests, to you and to me. And this is his message. The third theme of the Parsha is, be strong. Take strength in you. Be strengthened for this journey, for this adventure, for this odyssey. Be strengthened for this mission. Be strong and courageous. In other words, don't be afraid. Let the presence, the abiding presence, and the witness of your Creator, the one who provides the impetus and the power and the wisdom and the direction for it all, let him banish from you every fear. As you are filled with his presence, as you're filled with his motivation and his inspiration, as you're filled with his wisdom and his goodness, let fear dissipate and run away, because he will be with you. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. These are the 3 themes. You today, you are standing before the face of the Holy One. He is calling you to choose life, not just for you, but for you. Not just for your seed, not just for your children and your household and your bloodline, but for your household and for your bloodline as well. But for the entire ecosystem of creation, for the grand plan of redemption and restoration, for the sake of all it all, choose the way of life. And the third theme is, and so choosing the way of life, getting ready to go from being a standing one to being one who walks it out in the earth and goes and engages with the world. Be strong, be courageous, and do not be afraid. So Torah's crescendo of it all coming down to this is summed up in these 3 themes. But it's highlighted and brought to a point by a certain series of words the Holy One speaks to Moshe on behalf of all of us, but they're definitely directly to Moshe. And those words are found in Deuteronomy 31:14. And he says to Moshe, this is an encounter between Creator of the universe and Moshe, and we have eavesdropped on it by virtue of the Torah, and now because of that we are now getting the same message. Here's the message in Deuteronomy 31:14a. Hin karvu yameka lamut. Behold, your day of death draws near. Behold, your day of death draws near. This is what the Holy One told to Moshe, which punctuated everything he said, which made everything he said have poignancy and immediate urgency to it. Hin karvu yameka lamut. You now, we are facing the day of our death too. We don't know exactly when it's going to be. We know we have a rehearsal coming up. The rehearsal comes forth, it begins on Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing of the trumpets. We begin to consider, take into account, and begin to prepare for our own rehearsal of death. Not just death as a physical cessation of life, breathing and heartbeat, but death as a form of entry, a portal of entry into the presence of the Creator, and giving account to Him for what we've done with the breath of life at His throne, standing before His throne, called to His presence to give an account of that on Yom Kippur, the day of covering, and then to face Him as King, but also to face Him as the one, the judge of all men, the judge of all souls, the judge of all life. It is Him to decide what to do with us, what should be done with us in the coming year of 5784 is what we're dealing with now. So, the question will become, are we going to be fruitful, or are we just going to be theological? Are we going to believe things, or are we going to do things? Are we here for a learning session, learning better ways? Or are we here to walk out those ways and model them to the world? Behold, the day of your death draws near. Hin karavu yameka lamut. Behold, what will you do? How will you finish? Well, there are basically two elements to this issue of fruit. We've got our fruit at two levels. The first level is, will we understand and embrace covenant, divine romance, language, and vocabulary? Okay. So in other words, will we be able to talk the talk of what being actually the people of the Holy One? Him being our God, we being His to direct and command His people. Ani dodi vadodi li, I am my beloved's and He is mine. Will we talk the talk? Because if we don't talk the talk, people will not understand when we walk the walk. So will we get in tune with and begin to resonate with covenant, divine romance, language, and vocabulary? Now I want to compare something to you here. I'll make sure I've got a little bit of time left. Yeah, I do. In the Western world, we have something called pop psychology, and it's sort of like, okay, this is the way we can manipulate things to where we cope with the world and we cope with the people of the world. It's pop psychology. It's an idea that people read. It becomes popular. It's on all sorts of social media. There's books about it, and so the one level of pop psychology that I'm going to talk about is in the area of marriage. And what happens is that the religions generally tend to gradually absorb and adopt and begin to regurgitate pop psychology with regard to certain areas. The one in which I want to talk about is the area of marriage. How do you keep marriages alive? How do you divorce-proof marriages? Well, pop psychology and religion have formed this thing called the 5 love languages. They basically, I'll tell you about what that means but the issue is they understand that there is a vocabulary and a language that binds people together. that helps to bind people together. That's a very fleshly, a very pseudo-intellectual approach. It is not a spiritual approach necessarily. We'll talk about why that might be the case. But the basic idea is that with every relationship comes relational language and relational interaction based, and in this situation with regard to marriage. And then the second idea beyond that is, if you understand and begin to embrace and utilize covenant divine romance language, the language of relationship that is particular to the individuals involved, then you will make covenant affirming behavioral and lifestyle choices. So the first idea is adopting, embracing, and utilizing the language and the vocabulary of relationship. And the second is to take that a step further and make covenant affirming behavioral and lifestyle choices. Now, the first one was walking the walk, as we talk about in theory, and the second is the first one was talking the talk. The second one is walking the walk. All right. Now, that means intentionally rejecting and eschewing anything that would be contrary or damaging or hindering to the covenant relationship we're talking about. Okay. Now, the reason I warn you about pop psychology in general and love language in the flesh, theology in specifically, is because it has an unspoken assumption that I think is dangerous. The unspoken assumption of the love language approach to marriage is basically this: that all people come into marriage inadequately loved. Maybe in childhood, in other relationships, in atmospheres. So they come in with an inadequacy. They are broken, they are defective, and they are pathologically needy. If you understand, now the psychology part, the pop psychology part of this is, okay, then let's work with that, let's manipulate it, let's manage it. So we understand that marriages can be strengthened in this theory, and perhaps even divorce-proof to some extent, if one of the partners or both, are willing to put in the work to first of all discover and be sensitive to the partner, his or her partner's dominant pathology. What part of her, where is she inadequately loved in their past, or he inadequately loved in the past? Where is he broken in the past, been broken in the past? Where is he defective in functional capacity as far as a functioning human being? Where is he or she pathologically needy? Of what things of inadequate love, traces and history of inadequate love can we address? And the theory is that if you discover and become sensitive to the other partner's dominant pathology, you can strategically invest time and energy and resources to keep that dominant pathology managed or medicated with doses, kind of like a diabetic does with insulin. It's a pathology that doesn't clear up, theoretically, but you can manage it, keep it managed, and soothe the savage beast. And so, under that theory, all that effective marriage or maintenance or relational maintenance requires is focusing attention and efforts on the open doors that one's partner's dominant pathology leaves open. Every person is, as I said, broken. Every person was inadequately loved in the past history of their life, and therefore you find the open doors where you can meet that need for the inadequate love of the past and the brokenness, and then you begin to do something, and you call it nurturing emotional love and for fostering connection. That's sort of the way in which it's presented. All it means is you just need to be sure to provide strategic doses of the specific thing for which your partner's flesh is crying out because of their inadequate love history. In other words, it's all about learning to soothe the savage beast in your partner, and our partner learning to soothe the savage beast in us. Now, that's a lot of discussion about the love language theology and the love language approach to human frailty. And it's all flesh-based. It's all pseudo-intellectual based. It has no spiritual underpinnings, whatever, though it may be spoken of by very spiritual people because they've adopted it, embraced it. Now, I want to go on from that. I want your marriages to be based on something more than that. I hope that if you're married or you're planning on getting married, that your relationship will be based on something more than this kind of soothing the savage beast approach. That you will want to bring out the best, not soothe the worst. What you want to do for your partner is to encourage and inspire them to be their absolute best, to reach their absolute potential, as opposed to just minimizing the toxicity and the pathology. But nevertheless, beyond the issue of marriage, what I want to talk to you about, what the Torah talks to us about, is a similar related idea with regard to our relationship with the Holy One. What is the love language? What is the vocabulary? And what are the choices and strategic plans we make to foster the relationship, the intimacy? How do we strengthen, divorce-proof, our relationship with the Creator of the universe? Well, of course, He's doing the same with us. But the problem is we can't use the Chapman love language ideas, because they all assume that one of the partners is defective, is pathologically inclined, is inadequately loved, and the Holy One is never going to be that. He has no fleshly approach to life. He has no pathology. He doesn't need anything the way human beings do. So how then do we strengthen and divorce-proof a relationship with someone like that? We can't manage pathology because he has none. How do we approach him? How do we deal with him? How is the love language between us in this relationship based upon something more important? Well, the same kind of idea with a different reasoning and different behind. There is love language with the Creator of the universe. It's covenant. The love language is what He's put out in the covenant. As Yeshua said it, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. Commandment keeping is not some sort of burden or horrible thing, a curse. Commandment keeping within a relationship of covenant is a way of building, nurturing the relationship, of strengthening each one till they reach their potential, till they reach their fullness and the plan. Well, this is the idea of covenant language. Instead of love language, let's talk about covenant language. And mitzvot, and mishpatim, and pekadim, and different types of devarim, words of the Holy One. He's all laid it out for us to teach us His covenant love language. To increase the intimacy factor in the divine romance. That is what He teaches us to do. Now, I want to just kind of give you those instructions. Choose life. He wants us to understand that life, with regard to Him, is His covenant, is walking in the covenant. He has opened the doors of life. His pathways are pathways of life. His instructions are ways of life, of light and hope and peace and joy and fulfillment and purpose. And so, to the Holy One, covenant love language, covenant building language, is walking according to His instructions. It is not to get us some sort of eternal home in heaven. It is to fulfill the purpose that we have in this life, in this age, and in the age to come. So when He says, choose life, choose chayim, the ultimate levels of life, He is talking about walking in His covenant. And when He says, don't be afraid of them, be strong, be courageous, He follows that by saying, because I am with you, and I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. He will not leave or forsake us. Oh, my beloved ones, my friends, on this Sabbath of Parsha Nitzavim Vayalech, on this crescendo week of the Torah, let us make up our minds today, as we stand before the Creator of the universe, that we will not leave or forsake Him or His ways or His plan either. Well, enjoy your Sabbath studies today. If you've had a chance to join in on this one, drop us a note. Let us know who you are, where you're listening from, and anything you'd like to say about prayer requests, comments, or questions. We bless you on this Sabbath day. Get ready for the great season to come of Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeret. I will say to you, perhaps maybe the first, Shana Tova, L'Shana Tova Tiketevu, and Hag Sameach. Blessings. We'll see you next week.